Banu Merchantman might be the most anticipated ship in Star Citizen history. In 2024, John Crew confirmed that where's the Banu Merchantman is the #1 question the community asks about the ship pipeline. Think about that. I have a spicier question than that though. Does the Banu Merchantman even have a role in this game anymore? The ship was designed for a version of Star Citizen that might not actually be coming, the same way exploration gameplay feels like it's been left behind for those of us that have expensive ships that just might never have gameplay to justify them. I was ready to call the Merchantman dead on arrival, but there's one thing that CIG could still do that could save it. Before I get into any of that, I want to say something to the Merchantman backers who've been waiting over 12 years for this ship. If you still have one in your hangar in 2026, I salute you, seriously. You're the definition of holding the line, and there should be a free t-shirt for that. You've endured a ton, and some of the things I bring up in this video might be painful, so I'm sorry in advance. Let's go through the little bit of the history of the ship. The Merchantman was a 2013 stretch goal. It was designed around a version of Star Citizen that was essentially theoretical at the time, a verse with dozens of systems where most of the map was empty space, far from any reliable infrastructure, and fully stocked landing zones. That version of Star Citizen wasn't that much different than Starfield, with the loading screens and zone-based gameplay. In that game, a ship you could land anywhere and turn it into a shopfront makes perfect sense. You're the trader who shows up at the edge of nowhere with goods people really can't get locally. Fast forward to 2022, and work on this ship was finally happening. Inside Star Citizen ran a full episode on it during Alien Week, that's the B-roll that you're watching now, and walked the camera through nearly the entire ship. It was a gray-boxed interior, but they showed you everything. A bridge, a medical ward, and social areas, and the part that mattered most to a lot of players, the marketplace floor, where shop stalls could eventually be set up for players to sell goods. It was really cool, and the exterior textures of the ship were already looking sharp and very alien. For a ship that had been in concept limbo for 9 years at this point, seeing the interior walkthrough felt like the end was in sight. But of course, it wasn't. The team that built it left CIG along with art director Paul Jones. The ship pipeline was essentially starting over with 2 new artists, and the Merchantman got it set aside while CIG rebuilt their team. And I want to be clear about something because I saw it in the comments from an earlier video I did. I don't blame any of those developers for leaving, not for 1 second. You see, I've been there myself. I took a job from a competitor once that doubled my salary, and it completely changed my life. That change allowed me to buy my house. When somebody offers you that kind of opportunity, you take it. None of us are professional athletes. We're really unlikely to win the lottery. Taking the money when you can makes complete sense. And no one betrayed CIG or Star Citizen. But it still left the Merchantman in a really difficult spot, and the players who had been waiting 9 years in 2022 are now waiting 12. And I get why they're upset. Which brings us to the actual question, is the ship that they're waiting for even relevant to the game that's coming? The Star Citizen we have in 2026 isn't the game the Merchantman was designed for. Neither is the 1.0 product CIG's been teasing us with CitizenCon reveals in 2024 and so on. We'll have, 5 connected systems, maybe 6 with Odin, each with dense infrastructure in almost every corner of them. Every major landing zone already has NPC shops, and I assume that they'll have player trading infrastructure too. And speaking of that, player trading, base building, and major crafting expansions are about to come in, and we'll be crafting nearly everything in the game. Our access to goods is about to explode. The frontier the Merchantman was built to serve really doesn't exist. And based on the current trajectory, it may not exist in any form the ship was designed for, even when Castra and Terra come online. A long-distance mobile storefront in a game where you're rarely more than a few minutes from a shopping terminal is a solution looking for a problem. Well, unless it's not. There was a Star Citizen Live recently where they spent a good chunk of time on how trading is going to work. And one thing really stood out to me. They're talking about trading being localized. You won't be pulling up your Mobiglass and seeing every item price across the verse at a glance. And let me tell you, if that's what actually ships, it's completely changing the game and makes the Merchantman have a role. I've said it on this channel before, but it's worth repeating. Perfect information is the enemy of games. The moment a player can open an interface and see where every commodity is cheapest and where it sells the most, trading isn't gameplay anymore, it's a spreadsheet. Price becomes the only variable that matters. The guy who shows up with good selection, fair prices, and goes where you actually are, he doesn't exist in that world because nobody needs him. Everybody just flies to the cheapest terminal and moves on. Raf Koster dealt with this exact problem in Star Wars Galaxies. He fought to keep trading decentralized, to make players actually go find the goods rather than browse a universal list. He lost that fight eventually, and the economy in Star Wars Galaxies was never the same afterwards. Hell, he's been writing about it for 20 years because he watched it happen in real time, and he understood what it cost. Now, if CIG actually holds the line on localized trading, they're creating a space for the exact role the merchantman was designed to fill. A ship that shows up somewhere with a curated selection of goods and a reason for players to care that it's there specifically. That's real gameplay. And in a verse where you just can't tab out to a price comparison tool, that rule has real value. Seriously, I think that CIG needs to lock down the API to make sure that there are no websites that can show you the best prices at the best time, because it defeats everything that they're trying to do with the system. But, of course, CIG hasn't shipped that yet. They've talked about it, they've teased it. We don't know how strict the localization will end up being, or if the I need everything now generation wins through sheer bitching. If it ends up being lightweight, like the terminals showing local prices, but maybe the Mobi Glass tracks the universal market anyway, then we're back to the merchantman being a solution looking for a problem. There's also that expectations problem. When CIG finally ships the merchantman, it can't just be a good ship. It has to be a ship that feels worth 13 years of development, because if it lands as just another ship in the catalog, a lot of people are going to be very upset. That's a real design problem and a community management problem, and they created both. So this is my take. The merchantman owners who waited 12 or 13 years, you deserve to hear the truth. The ship is definitely going to look better than it did in the 2022 gray box version, because the ship pipeline has improved just that much. The more recently a ship was built, the better it is. When you look at what they were putting out this year compared to like 2020, it's not even close. And the merchantman that arrives in your hangar is going to benefit from years of lessons learned on all the other ships. It's a trade-off that I personally would make. But whether it has a game to live in is a question CIG hasn't answered yet. And players that are going to want everything now are fighting to take the meaning away from your ship in that gameplay. I'm telling you that now so that you can fight back. You can make your opinions heard. If you don't want an economy where price is king, then you have to speak up, because that's the only way that the merchantman has a role. I hope you get the trading game you signed up for, but I'm not going to pretend this design problem isn't real because I love this game. It's a major hole right now, and CIG has to make good to those players if their pledges are pretty but ultimately useless. Perfect information kills games, and I'm glad to see that CIG is actually taking a proactive approach to maybe mitigate that. If they can keep it localized like they said, and if players can realize that convenience of being able to one-click find the lowest price of whatever you're looking for is actually killing the cool part of the game, which is the discovery aspect of pretty much anything. I mean, think about it. Why is exploration cool? Exploration is cool because you're finding something that nobody else found before. So when you find that gem that's like a really good deal, you feel better about it. That is a cool gameplay system, and that's exactly what the merchantman can enable. I hope that we stay on that path. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.